or someone who cares, there's a place for you here.
Network with passionate change makers, build skills, and step into leadership.
Join LJE Nigeria today. Let's lead with truth. Let's build with courage. Let's rise for Nigeria. Become an LJE volunteer today and be the change Nigeria needs. Follow all our social media handles for more details.
Justice and Economic Advancement (LJE), where we engage thought leaders on issues shaping our nation and how to prefer solutions to these issues. Now, over the past 2 days, stakeholders from across Nigeria, including security officials, academics, pastoral and farming leaders, gathered in Abuja for the LJE Nigeria National Conference. The event, which focused on addressing the root cause of herdsmen-farmers conflict through justice and inclusive dialogue, ended with a successful reading of a communique that outlined key steps towards peace and security. Joining us now is the President of LJE, Barrister Samuel Meme, to share insights from the communique, the commitments made, and the way forward in building a safer and more united Nigeria. Congratulations on a successful conference, Mr. President.
Thank you.
You're very much welcome to Leadership Dialogue today. So how would you describe the outcome of the event?
The event was very successful, and we want to appreciate Nigerians and to all those who took out time to participate in the conference. We want to appreciate them. It was quite an insightful conversation. It ended yesterday. We were able to get all the necessary information that is needed. We had the presence of the security agencies fully represented. We had in attendance the Miet Allah Group and other cattle rearers and owners associations. We also had the Association of the Farmers represented. We had critical stakeholders, academians, media personnel, and all people from all walks of life was in attendance in that conference. It clearly shows that Nigerians are determined to speak up and for us to forge ahead to have a lasting solutions to what appears to be the biggest challenge you are facing, economic challenge you are facing in this country, and also what has to do with right protection and the farmers' protection, and most importantly, protection of the farmlands.
Okay. So, sir, you mentioned you had security agencies and leaders from both farming and pastoral communities. How do you think this diversity of voices would help shaping the outcome of this event?
For us in LJE, we took it upon ourselves to convey this conference irrespective of how the so-called sensitive conversation, as we have gotten the feedback from those people we believe that ordinarily they have the power, to implement policies that appears to be for the interest of the people. So what we had on that day, or the past 2 days, has to do with raising attention and getting critical stakeholders' interests and opinion, in resolving this crisis, because we cannot shy away from reality. No matter what we try to do as a people, no matter what the government try to implement as a government, if we are unable to create an environment where farmers, people can own their community, own their farmland, and be able to carry out their primary responsibilities in terms of business, then we are in for a great danger. And that is why we feel, as Nigerians, we know it is necessary. We feel the pains of everyone, the pains of Nigerians from all communities. People are crying. People are scared. People are living in fear, just because you have a certain group of people, very few people who are doing business just like every other Nigerians, taking sway, moving from one place to another, destroying farmland. There are, even in the midst of war, there is to an extent that certain things, actions can get to. Then you should be able to know that, look, there is a time for war and there is a time for peace.
Yes.
So, in response to your question, we have needed to be done as an organization, as our core mandate. We have come up with a recommendation that will be sending across to all critical stakeholders, just the same way we brought them in. Okay. We will be sending informations to the State's House of Assembly, to the governors, to the Ministry of Agriculture, across all the states of the Federation. Then the federal level will also be communicating with the National Assembly, who will be communicating with the federal government, the agencies and parastatals responsible for taking care of the issues of protection of lives, properties, and businesses in Nigeria. So from what we got, from the feedback we got, now appears to be that certain people in this country cannot do their business, which is the farmers. And the reason is clear. And there were so many suggestions that were raised, such as culture of taking cattle from one place to another. And this issue was well dealt with during the conference. And what we resolved at that time was that, look, we understand that it's an age-long tradition, that this is how the cattle are usually reared and bred in this country. And we have all agreed that it is no longer fashionable to move cattle from one place to another. So it therefore means that cattle rearers must be seen as private business owners. So it therefore means that as a private business owners, you have a responsibility to provide for yourself how you should run your business. So this issue was fully dealt with, and we also look at the security implications. We look at the protections of lives and property. We also look at the protections of the herders, because the herders said in most cases they go to communities, and in the course of doing their business, they are also attacked. So therefore means that even moving their cattle from one place to another is not safe for the cattle rearer. So in a nutshell, it was also completely and comprehensively agreed that it is not fashionable to move cattle from one place to another. It therefore means that cattle should be kept in one place, and those running the business should be able, to have proper communication. But we have a communique out there which is now in a public document.
Okay, sir. So you mentioned that there is a communique out there. So can you tell us some key highlights? Like you already mentioned that it's not fashionable for cattle rearers to move their cattle from place to place. Is there any other part of it that was actually mentioned in the class can't move from place to place? Can you give us another insight to what was captured in the communique?
Well, I felt you have the communique, but then what the aspect that was captured that has to do, we discussed the issue of ranching.
Okay.
we discussed the issue of ranching, and we said the ranching should not be left solely for the government. So it therefore means that there is a need for private owners, private individuals to also go into ranching. It therefore means that people who own land can make their lands available for cattle rearers to keep their cattle. So the cattle rearers, which is the cattle owners, can go into proper negotiation to secure land. There are issues about water, which is how normally they take their cattle from one place to another for the purpose of the streams to drink water. But it was also dealt with that this issue can as well be addressed. The cattle rearers can provide water for their cattle to be just like the way it is practiced in other parts of the world. What we aim to achieve in this conference is to restore peace to the communities. We understand the importance of cattle rearing. We understand the importance of protein. We understand. But we must also put into consideration the interest of national unity and the interest of national security. That many of our villages, many of our communities are deserted right now. Simply because most of the primary business activities that they carried out in these communities are farming. So the question and the issues of destruction of farmland, many of these cattle rearers do not tread with caution, and it appears to be an issue that cannot be resolved. So they move their cattle. The normal tradition should have been that they should take their cattle to areas where farmlands are not located, so that their cattle can consume on grass. But that is not the case. We have people who participated in the conference and people who also joined the online medium who complained that their farmlands had been taken over, and usually they can't even go. We had a lady who came in yesterday all the way from Jos, and she said she was into rice farming. Now she has abandoned the business. So it's quite unfortunate that at this time of our nationhood, we are being sentimental about the issues that affect the growth of the country. The growth of the country by giving everyone opportunity to thrive. So, I want to speak to the federal government and the state government that the issue of cattle rearing is not a sensitive issue as they think it is. It's not a sensitive issue, it is a mere business activities. So the federal government, the state government, the local government, opinion makers, whether you are a politician or whether you are into private business, whether you are a Nigerian or you're not a Nigerian, you must recognize first that cattle rearing, cattle owners are private business owners. And they are doing their business. They must do their business legitimately. Their business must not cross boundary with another person's business. Yes. This has nothing to do with tribe. It has nothing to do with ethnicity. If anybody think it has to do with ethnicity or tribe, that is the business of the person.
Yes, I was going to ask the question.
That is the business of the person. But what we understand is that it has not to do with tribe.
Okay.
I can go into cattle rearing if the environment is conducive. And one other thing that we identified is that the government have a role to play. If the government cannot provide ranching, in addition to the private sector's ranching, the government should provide access road to the farmlands.
Yes.
So that it will be easy for those who are going to establish ranches in the bush or in the farmlands, because we also agree that these two aspects of business owners are still deals with agriculture sector, the crop farmers and those who are into livestock, right? So they can also have their farmlands almost together, but it should be barricade, and there should not be movement of cattle. What we agreed is that farmers, the cattle rearers, can acquire and purchase grasses. They mean that community owners can even make their lands available to grow grass. And this grass would be harvested and then be taken to where you have the cattle for consumption. And it therefore means that you're going to have a more corporate system of running this business. It's a quite large area and it's going to expand the economic boost of this country. So, and it's going to bring peace to the communities. The rushes you are seeing in the city is definitely going to reduce. You're going to have more people living in the rural areas and they will do their business very successfully without fear of intimidation of any kind. So it's going to be a win-win situation for the local community, the local government, the state government, and the federal government.
Okay. So you said this has nothing to do with ethnicity. You know, some people will say this is more like a religious issue. You already addressed that. So, but then what makes this communique different from past resolutions we've seen on the Farmers Herders Conference? Because I know we've had people talk about this and then no implementation of solutions. So what makes this one different? What should the common man expect from the aftermath of this conference?
Well, this one is quite very unique. We are not seminar organization or conference organization. We are a movement. We are we are a group of people who believe that there is a need for us to reset the leadership system of this country. And talking about leadership system, it means all aspects of the system of this country. So we have been able to identify a problem, we have been able to identify the solution, and we have been able to itemize the roadmap to the solution. And like I said, that it has nothing to do with tribe, because there are different parts of this country, different ethnic groups in this country that also own cattle. And some people have even tried to, make this conversation look like that whenever you mention cattle rearing, it's synonymous to Fulani.
Yes,
You understand?
Tribe, yes.
Our brothers that are Fulanis are critical parts of this country. They hold a very strong interest of this country, and they also have a responsibility to the security of lives of this country. Just like every member and every citizen of this country has a responsibility for the security of this country.
Yes.
So if you are a law-abiding citizen of this country, it therefore means that the security of this country and the protection of lives and properties, and you're also supposed to be your neighbor's
Keeper.
So it therefore means that if we have identified a conduct, it therefore means that we also find out that there are Fulani people who are also farmers.
Into farming, yes, exactly.
So that is why I said it has nothing to do with tribe. And what we have identified again in addition is that this aspect of our sector is not well regulated by law. And that is why we said that we have also developed a legal framework that would enable state houses of assembly to improve on their laws, particularly laws that has to do with anti-open grazing laws. So this aspect of the legal framework will enable the states house of assembly that are yet to enact these laws to guide them on how they can set up the implementation mechanism for the states that already had anti-open grazing laws. The implementation mechanism still lies with the conventional security agencies, which is the police. So in our recommendation, we have recommended that the community policing needs to be incorporated, and we carefully identify. We didn't make it in such a way that will give room for speculation or will give room for debate. We made it very clear on how they can formulate this system to incorporate the people in the communities, particularly to be organized by the local government and the state government. So they're going to employ young people in various communities, and they will be trained to add value of security to their communities. And the activities will be fully monitored by the conventional security agencies, the police, the DSS, and the NSCDC, even in terms of training. So this now means that the question has also arisen as a matter of the being able to pay these guys that will be employed. And we have also identified that when we are able to establish peace in our communities, it's going to restore confidence in the communities. It's going to bring about peace, and it's going to bring about people coming back to the community to invest and to farm. So the local government will be able to generate revenue in that regard. Then they will be able to pay these youths that are being employed. They will also, in addition, act as forest guide, in addition to the forest guide being established by the federal government. So it's a win-win situation for all parties. This is very, very key, because the fear that people are having has to do, it is not proper for us as a Nigerian to attribute a certain tribe as a people that has monopoly of violence. It is even unfair to our brothers that are Fulani ethnic nationality for us to see them as people who are violent. It is because the government had not been able to look critically on how these aspects of our economy, of this sector, to be properly regulated by law. When you regulate it by law, then you now have the enforcement mechanism. I can tell you that all of them will abide by the law and they will follow the procedure that have been laid down by the system.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. This is Leadership Dialogue. We'll go on a quick break and continue the conversation after the break.
Camera rolling. Light set. Sound check. And action.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's program.
A program where we get to talk about the daily
lawyers
affairs
dissect legal issues with intent to educate.
This is the perfect space to create professional quality videos, recording news, podcasts, and all media content. With top-of-the-line cameras, studio lighting, soundproof spaces, we provide everything you need for a seamless shoot. Our fully equipped studio ensures high-quality production every time. Enjoy a comfortable, air-conditioned environment with professional-grade gear and expert support. Contact us now or visit our Abuja location to reserve your spot.
Welcome back to Leadership Dialogue on LJE. We have in the studio Barrister Samuel Meme, and we have been talking about the aftermath of the LJE's historic event on tackling the root causes of herdsmen-farmers crisis in Nigeria. So, sir, what role do you think government, civil society, and community leaders can play in implementing the resolutions for these issues that we're facing?
There are so many roles that we, as a people, can play.
Okay.
It depends on how the relevant agencies, of particularly the state government and the federal government, are able to embrace this recommendation. And like I said, because before we convened this conference, we've had calls from different quarters, particularly the invited guests that we invited to come and speak on this issue. Like I mentioned to you, this is not what I should continue to repeat, but unfortunately, we had people who said, "Oh, this is a sensitive issue." Then when we try to inquire further, what makes this a sensitive issue when we have people who cannot no longer go to farm in this country? And some of this issue they raised was that that they don't want violence. That when you try to stop this cattle rearers from moving or into farmland, that there might likely be what appears to be what we know today. And I said there is no point. I don't think we can get it anything worse than what we have today.
Okay.
After all, today, people are being killed. So if you cannot speak when you are being killed, then when are you going to speak? So the government have so much role to play, because as a private citizens, we can speak, we can demonstrate, we can advocate for the government to do the needful. But when it comes to, in terms of setting the policies rights, implementing laws, it is the responsibility of the government. So
yes.
what the federal government really have to do right now is, upon when they receive the recommendation critically, and when there are gray areas, we are very much open to come in to explain. What they need to do is to, particularly the National Assembly and the presidency, the president must, as a matter of urgency, know that there is a critical aspect of the economy of this country that is lacking behind. And if he take decisive action towards addressing this issue, I have mentioned this thing before, the president would be very, very happy by the end of his tenure. And I said it that a president would know him to be someone who likes to take drastic actions. This one is even more than drastic action. The one that he took when he removed the fuel subsidy is a very, very drastic action that so many people had different feelings. But if he takes the drastic action in this regard by saying that there is a need for us to treat these two aspects of set of people as pure and mere private business owners,
Okay.
then the government also need to make law. The federal government must make law or speak to it in the form of policy that there should be a restriction of movement of cattle in Nigeria. That everybody who owns businesses of cattle should get an opportunity to acquire land or rent land for the purpose of rearing their cattle. Then private individuals who also want to go into that business as well can make their land, their farms, their land available to grow grass, so that they can supply this grass to where cattle are kept. Then private business owners, farmers, can now go into farmland and now plant their crops for food consumption. The state government and local governments must also work in synergy to provide security framework to protect their communities and to protect the farmland, and most importantly, to implement this policy of restriction of movement of cattle in Nigeria. So, a restriction of movement of cattle in Nigeria does not mean that you are being unfair to anybody. It simply means that the right thing should be done. Nobody takes animals from one place to another in this current world that we are living, except it is done in the forest. But I don't know how possible that can be. But in an environment where people are doing their businesses, you are moving cattle from one place to another, it is not sustainable. It has been agreed that this area, this aspect and pattern is not sustainable, both for the herders and for the farmers and for the community at large.
Okay, so finally, before we go, because clearly we can see that there is hope for these issues to be resolved, what message do you have for farmers and herders out there that are listening to you?
My message to the farmers is a message of hope.
Okay.
Is to let the farmers know that no hope is lost, and hope and confidence have been restored for them to go back to farm. Then for the herders, the cattle owners associations, the owners of cattle in this country should know that it is time for us to give peace a chance. Many of these cattle owners that we know, that we are aware, we don't know them, I don't know them, but what I mean is that their conduct
Of course.
are not so much aware that the people that they entrust these cattle to are taking their cattle to areas where destruction of lives and wanton killings and destruction of properties are being perpetrated. It is most likely. So it is very important that they organize their business in the manner through which businesses are run in this country. Thereby, your business must have an address, where you keep your goods must have an address. It therefore means that you have to employ people and create opportunities for you to feed your cattle. This is the best way for us to go. There is no other way to describe it in my own term rather than to say that they must recognize themselves and organize themselves in a manner that should be able to bring in dignity and honor to them and to those who the host communities. So it's going to be a win-win situation. It might be a painful beginning, but in the long run, it will be a win-win situation for all parties and for Nigeria to have peace. And most importantly, for us to have food security in Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for giving hope to Nigerians, especially farmers and herders.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're very much welcome, sir. It is clear now that the communique is not just a document, but a call to action for justice, dialogue, and peace in Nigeria. We will be watching closely to see how these resolutions translate into real change for farmers, herders, and indeed all Nigerians. That was the President of LJE, Barrister Samuel Meme, speaking on the outcome of the just concluded LJE 2-day national conference on addressing the root causes of herdsmen-farmers crisis in Nigeria. For more updates on these, do well to follow us on all our social media platforms at LJE Nigeria, and you can also report a violation on our website www.ljenigeria.org. Thank you for being a part of the program today. I remain your host, Omoyeni Ujefu. Bye for now.